member of the board. So in my 4 years, I have seen a lot of applications, and some of them were a joy to review, and others were not so much a joy to review. So my intent for this is to share some tips and tricks with you that go beyond read the application kit and do what it says in the application kit. So my background, U-Waterloo grad, worked in ergo, straight ergo consulting role, and at University of Waterloo for many years. And about 8 years ago, I switched over to the prevention system in Ontario. So now working with Public Services Health and Safety Association. My intentions for our time together is to give you an overview of the application process, identify what some of the common challenges are, and what you can do to make whoever the board members are in the year you apply very happy people, with the tips for successful applications. And I know there were a couple people interested in COC, so we will speak to that. And lastly, I mean, I recognize that I spent 4 years on the board, so I was really familiar with the ins and outs of that application kit. If you have suggestions, you know, we welcome that, or sorry, not we, the board welcomes that feedback so that we can make improvements to make things clearer for prospective applicants and current certificates. And as we go, if there's questions, type them in the chat box. I'll do my best to catch them as they come in. If I miss them, I apologize. So the certification process, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that we've got a quality control on the knowledge and the skills to work as a professional ergonomist. To make sure that we've got competency with the tools and methods, so that the answers that we're giving to that client about the question they've asked us is appropriate, and to make sure that people actually have experience using what it is the tools and the analysis methods that we are using to answer those questions that client has had for us. So with regardless of which what brought you here today, I would encourage you, we are ergonomists and human factors professionals. Please take a user-centered approach to your application, okay? Pardon me. Your job is to clearly demonstrate that you have met the requirements of whatever it is you're submitting to the board. I would encourage you to actually read the application kit and follow what's in it, which seems obvious, but I need to say that. And I would encourage you very strongly to proofread. I want you to keep in mind that board members are volunteers. So when you submit your paperwork to us, I'm taking time away from my family to look at this. It's happening in evenings and weekends and that sort of thing. So we're not getting paid to do any of this. And we are auditors. It's up to the applicant to clearly demonstrate that they've met the requirements. And the board's role is that of an auditor to say, yep, I agree. So we're not going to go treasure hunting. There have been times where we've looked at applications and it's like, man, I think it's in there. And if we took 2 hours from here and 4 hours from there, and then we put this and then that, then maybe it might work. That's not the job of the board. We're not there to treasure hunt and find things. It's up to you to clearly demonstrate that you've met that. And when there's one red flag, we're going to take a closer look, right? If everything looks above board, then we're just going to keep going. But when we see one thing that kind of raises our spider senses a red flag, then we're going to take a closer look. And to give you a sense of, you know how much time goes into preparing these applications. Remember that we're doing this evenings and weekends. Each board member, depending on the number of applicants, would have 10 to 12 applications to review. with about a 1 month turnaround. So the easier you make it for the board, the happier they're going to be. Now, in terms of the application categories, these numbers and brackets at the top refer to where you can find the details in the application kit. So keep in mind the timelines for the CCPE application. Your AE, you've demonstrated that you've met the education requirements and you're gaining your professional experience. The intention is that you are not an AE forever. There are timelines on how long you can be an AE. So don't get your AE and set it and forget it. Continue working and preparing that portfolio for the CCPE application. Now, if there are concerns with parental leaves or unemployment or health situations that require someone to go beyond the timelines outlined in the application kit, we understand that life happens. Just, you got to communicate, right? And when you are applying for your CCPE or for your AE on that March 1st or September 1st deadline, that's when you have to have met your education requirements. If you're going to get enough work experience, say in October, don't apply in September, because on September 1st, you did not meet the requirements of that application period. So just pick your application deadline, your application time appropriately. In terms of the process, March 1st and September 1st, the applications get sent to the management company. They do a quick review against the checklist. Your dossier is sent to 2 people who have no declared conflict of interest. They haven't mentored you, they weren't your professor, that sort of thing. Those 2 reviewers will review your application against the criteria, and then at a board meeting about 1 month later, they're going to make a recommendation to the board. It might be approve it, deny it, or we need more information, we need clarification, we want an extra work product or something like that. The board would then vote to award or deny your certification. You'll receive a letter with that decision, and that decision is within 6 months of that March 1st or September 1st deadline. There is an appeal process, which is outlined in the application kit if you disagree with the decision that the board made. So far, so good? I'm taking no chat boxes as a good thing. Okay, thank you, Alan. For those of you, oh, good, it's coming in now. Moving on to the education requirements. As a reviewer, the AE applications are often the more challenging ones to review. So I'm going to share a couple specific tips. Please read the application kit. If you have questions, email info@ccpe. We will respond to you and provide that clarification. What I'd like you to keep in mind is 2 years ago, the education requirements were updated. We now have Section A, which is foundational or kind of background knowledge relevant to the practice of ergonomics. And Section B is 100 hours that are taught with specific reference to and examples from the practice of ergonomics and human factors. Okay? Please don't be willy-nilly. This is where I see red flags. If we see, I don't know, interior design listed as Section B, I'm going to go, that's interesting. Let me take a closer look. So if you want to use interior design as specific to ergonomics, you're going to have to convince me with more than just a course description about why that would be taught with reference to ergonomics. And I can see cases where it might be, but it's up to the applicant, again, to demonstrate that. Now, what we need to remember is that in the education requirements, when we're talking about 300 hours from Section A, 100 hours from Section B, as well as lab work and field work, we're talking about course contact hours. I recognize that homework, lab reports, all that kind of stuff, studying is valuable and important and necessary to get the credit. But we're talking about the course contact hours that are listed in the university's or college's course catalog. Now I know that we updated the application kit to clarify up to 45 hours per half credit course. This doesn't mean that everybody gets to automatically claim 45 hours for every course. You need to know how many hours you were actually had for contact hours. So typically for a university course, 13-week semester, 3 hours a week, claim 36 hours. If you start claiming 40 or 45 or 80, that's a red flag. And if there's justification for it, that's fine, but you're going to have to clearly demonstrate that. Fanshawe and other college courses. Okay, 39. I can't do math. Thank you, Simon. Is it a 12-week course? No. 12 times 3.
No,
Sorry.
Oh, so yes. Fanshawe is a 14-week course. Yeah.
14. Okay, so I can't do math. Just know how many hours you had in class. Okay? We'll go with that. And that's what we want to claim. The other thing that is a common issue is the course description from the university catalog just gets copied in. So you see the example there in the red box. Would this be specific to ergonomics? Maybe or maybe not. If you are, this is University of Waterloo undergrad thesis. So if you are a Waterloo undergrad thesis, put in the course description, but then put my topic was, okay? Or this is what my project was, or something like that. On the surface, if all that's included is what's in that red box, I'm going to say, no, that's not specific to ergo. Because you haven't clearly demonstrated to me that what it was that is specific to ergo. Something else like a labor relations or organizational development or interior design course. On the surface, we're going to say no unless you demonstrate otherwise. Now, the requirement in your AE application is to have a course description log, which is outlined in 4.4.2, and the course allocation log. My first tip goes back to the comment about proofreading. Make sure they match, okay? Because I have seen cases in the past where like maybe somebody borrowed from a friend who got theirs 3 years before when the education requirements were different, and this did not match this, okay? And make sure that there's evidence to support your allocation of hours specifically in this section B category. Any questions about, from our prospective AEs? Nope, Alan's typing. Alan needs a calculator. So this Excel sheet, Alan, this Excel sheet auto-calculates, and yes, apparently I do need a calculator. In recognition of prior learning and competencies, 2 courses have been removed from my second degree in ergonomics. Okay, so are you wanting to double dip? It's how many hours you've spent in the classroom. Contact hours with an instructor, Simon. Okay? And again, if there's questions, you can reach out to me afterwards, or probably a better choice since I'm no longer on the board is to reach out to info@CCPE. So yeah, no double dipping, right? If you took a course. The other question that came up is, what if I took a course and I wasn't successful the first time? Don't double dip, right? We are looking for a successful completion of a course. So don't claim 10 hours from the time you didn't complete the course and then 25 hours from the time you were successful with the course. All right. Now, those of us, we've met our education requirements. The other part of this is to designate that you have the professional experience um, to be considered a professional ergonomist in Canada. And to do that, we're looking at the work products as well as where you've been working. First thing that we do, and believe it or not, we rule some people out, is we do the math on how many FTE hours you have. Okay? At least 50% of your work hours have to be, or your professional activities have to be in the direct application of ergonomics. So if you're in a blended role, say health and safety / ergo, and it's 75% health and safety and 25% ergo, then that counts as 0, okay? Because it's not at least half ergo. And there, we had to put this in. You may accrue 12 full-time equivalent months of professional experience per calendar year. Okay? You can't say, I had 2 jobs and I gained 18 months of FTE experience in 1 year. 1 year equals 1 year of experience maximum. Now, your professional experience, if you have met the education requirements, this is another spot where people may get into trouble, is figuring out when did I meet the education requirements, because I might have gotten all my education requirements in my undergrad degree, and at which point when I finish my undergrad and go on to graduate work or start working, then my professional experience counts as is. There's no discounting. Some people do their undergrad, start working, and then need to do like a 1-year course or maybe do some online courses through another institution or workshop. So the time between they finish their undergrad, say they worked for a year, and then they got whatever it was they needed to finish off their education requirements. That 1 year of work after my undergrad, before I finish my education requirements, is discounted half. Okay? For those of you that say finish your education requirements with your undergrad, then go on to grad school, the work you're doing for your grad school is counting as school credit. So yes, you've met your education requirements, but work that is being done for school credit is also discounted as half. Does that make sense? The take home is figure out when you've met your education requirements. I'm going to wait for a minute while Alan and Melissa's comments come in. Okay. Yes, extra school half the time. So your extra school, let's say it was 100% ergo, and you did that for a year, you would get 6 FTE months, right? Because it's all ergo, but there's a 50% discount because you're getting course credit. All right. Others, like postdocs, sometimes we get into when did I finish and that sort of thing. So if there's a more detailed conversation to happen, we can have that offline. But just figure out the date that you met your education requirements, and then we're not going to get into trouble with, when do I have my 4 years or my 5 years. Okay. You are required to submit an employment history log, and this is from an actual application. Hold on to that thought, Hollins, we'll get to it. 4.5.1, your employment history log is a required submission. So you can see This person had to, we'll call them work terms, internships. So there I was working, or someone was working for 4 months. They discounted it half because of it was done before they had met their education requirements. This one, this person is doing some coursework. They've met their education requirements right in here. They're doing some coursework, but it is still for course credit, so there is that discount again. And then down here, we're working, we've met our education requirements. It is not for course credit, so there's no discount. The only comment I would have on this one, I would put another column with what percentage full-time for ergo it was, and then I would add a second column for discounts, right? Just to make it clear. So just make sure this is exceptionally clear. Again, the board member is an auditor, and they're verifying that you've clearly demonstrated that you've met the requirements. Also in here, sorry, I'm just going to go back. This would be an appropriate spot if we're going beyond the time periods allowed because of parental leaves or anything like that. Just put a line in there or a note or down here with an asterisk or something, just to be clear. So your work products on your CCPE applications. There's a minimum of 3 work products. They need to cover the time period that you are claiming for your professional experience. So if you took 8 years to get your 4 FTE years, don't give us reports from the last 6 months, because that's a red flag saying, hey, what happened 5, 6, 7 years ago? So they do need to cover the time period, or have a decent sampling across the time period. There is a minimum of 3 work products and a maximum of 100 pages if you are applying under the 4 and 5 year category. If you're applying under the 25-year category, a maximum of 200 pages. Please respect the page limits. I received one that was 400 pages and I sent it back. I would also encourage you to think about when you are selecting your work products. If I've got 100 pages to demonstrate that I've met all the required competencies, when I'm selecting my work products, I want to select a work product that demonstrates more than just one competency. The other thing we need to be aware of is I understand that there is sector-specific and company-specific lingo. I recall reviewing a report once that it was more lingo than full words, and I didn't actually understand what it was. As a board member, I was not in a position to review that and say, yes, this is demonstrating the competencies or not, because there were so many acronyms. So if you are working, say, in an automotive situation and you've got lots of lingo about parts and lines and that sort of thing, just explain it in another piece of paper. Give me a cheat sheet so that I can understand what it is this is talking about, so that as a reviewer, I can evaluate if you have indeed met the competency or not. Your work products must be tabbed. In the past, people went out and bought tons of actual Post-it notes. Now just use commenting in Word or the little highlight feature in PDFs to demonstrate, you know, this sentence or this paragraph demonstrates where I've met this competency. The other thing to keep in mind is that you want to demonstrate a breadth of experience. If you send in 5 reports of 5 different assessments where you've used exactly the same tools in exactly or very similar situations with a different part or a different person, then that's not demonstrating the breadth of experience. So just be cautious and be thoughtful when you're selecting the work products that you're going to submit with your application. If we have issues with confidentiality, blank out people's faces, blank out people's names, that's fine. Make sure you obtain permissions from the company that you work for to include that. The board members do sign a confidentiality agreement every year. We have to sign that. And in certain times, like if someone works in nuclear or defense or anything like that, board members have signed NDA agreements for a specific report in order for that person to submit it. So if there's any concerns about the confidentiality piece, have a conversation with the board members ahead of time. But we do actually need to read the reports in order to evaluate. Now, the work product log is not a requirement, but it is very nice to have. This is an example from one application. At a glance, this demonstrates the breadth of experience in this. We're looking at vehicle assessments, office work, some public relations communication stuff, as well as some more academic work around force determination. So at a glance, this shows me the breadth of experience. Also, it shows me the range of competencies met. It covers the time period that this applicant was claiming, and it's a very nice to have. This makes for an easier application to review. Now, what is required is a work product summary. Okay? Please, please, please do one competency per line. So in this one, competency number 1 is in section 5.1 of this report. If you say competency 1, 3, and 7, and give me 6 different pages to look on, what am I looking for on which page? Okay? And please don't say the entire report covers all the competencies, because then I'm looking for a needle in a haystack. Please make it easier for the person that's reviewing that, because remember, they've got 1 month to review 10 to 15 of these, evenings and weekends. Here's the specific paragraph, here's the sentence, here's the part, the table, the illustration that best illustrates this competency. This is to give us a sense of what your role is, what is the sector, what is the industry, that sort of thing. And this would be the very appropriate spot if you have a report that has lots of technical industry or sector specific jargon or acronyms. This would be a great spot to give us a little legend of what it means, so that the person reviewing that can have a better understanding when they go through it. Now, it is a requirement to tag the competencies. This is required to improve the readability of your submission for the reviewer. Please tag specific sentences or paragraphs when possible. So the top is a whole bunch of Latin where I've used the commenting feature in Word. The bottom is that same text where we've used, I don't recall the exact name of it, but the highlight or comment feature in PDF. So whether you're submitting Word or PDF documents, the commenting is required, fairly easy to do. And if it's not done, your application will get sent back to you. Now, we do have a framework of competencies that are required. So in preliminary project definition, 4 of the 5 are required, 1 and 2 are required, plus 2 others. In systematic analysis, competency 6 and 9 are required, plus 1 more. Participation in the design process, number 13 is required, plus 2 more. And in other competencies, number 15 is required, plus 2 more. Yes, Kobe, it will be recorded. So generally speaking, there are some competencies that pretty much are always well done. And then there's other competencies that we tend to have struggles with or have conversations with the applicant or more info required letters. So generally well done is competency 1, which is that initial assessment of the problem or design. Number 2 is generally well done, critically reviewing or synthesizing existing research-based knowledge. In systematic analysis, number 6, conducting systematic analysis of the relevant activities in a work setting or product or service is well done. And number 8, verifying the appropriateness and correctness of the problem definition and assessment or intervention. The rest, I am going to go through and share my tips of what the competency actually means and what the reviewer is actually looking for. So in that first category of preliminary project definition, this is talking about your involvement with other professionals, interested parties, and the subject of that assessment that's being done. So for the competency 3, I do not want every email that you have ever sent in relation to that project, but provide a summary of emails, of project meeting minutes, maybe an org chart. And it might be, I reviewed the surveys with the other members of the team that included the planner, the architect, the engineer, the consultant, whomever. That would be appropriate for demonstrating competency 3. For competency 4, we're talking about the owner of the company, a supervisor, human resources, maintenance, that sort of thing. Maybe an org chart would be appropriate. Maybe if there's a project team, maybe your terms of reference or project charter, that kind of thing would be appropriate. Or a summary. Number 5, who were the workers that you worked with? You know, what shifts did they work? Were they tall, small? Basically, we want to understand that you talk to more than one person in order to get your information. So again, it's a supporting documentation. Not every email, not every phone call, but some sort of summary to help us understand the context around this report and to clearly demonstrate that you were working with others. Okay? In the systematic analysis category, number 7 and number 9 are typically not well done. If you need 400 pages or 4,000 pages to show me your competencies, then you're not going to get number 9. Okay? Number 9 is, here's the report, here are my conclusions, here's my analysis, and here's the recommendations that my analysis supports. So we're looking for a clear, concise report. That's what number 9 is. The other thing we need to be aware of is confusion between competency 9 and competency 16. And we'll get to that. But be aware, don't do double dipping unless you can clearly demonstrate that this work product is a succinct technical report and also a presentation. Number 7, show us some figures, some tables, some charts. I don't want to see the rough notes from your data analysis, but I need to have a sense of confidence that there was some analysis that went into the decision, the conclusion, the recommendations. We're not looking for the production rate is 1 person was injured. It's a little bit more than that we're looking for competency number 7. Doesn't have to be graduate level statistics. You know, there's the in between there, but it's a lot more than 300 parts a minute. Okay? Under participation in the design process, the ones that we have challenges with are number 10, identifying the design specifications, and 11, which is preparing the design specification report for use by other professionals. So in your work product, can you show this is the data that's required to implement the solution as you intended? Detailed, specific numbers, quantitative, that sort of thing. So provide a thingamajig that meets specification A, B, C, D. Or we're going to raise this height and reduce this weight. The impacts will be, and we've discussed them with. Okay? So that the reviewer understands that you've thought through the impacts of your solution, whatever it might be, and that the reader of your report could implement whatever it is that you're recommending. You know, the maintenance could implement it, the engineer could implement it, the software designer could implement it. So detailed and specific. Continuing on with challenges with competencies in the participation in the design process. Number 12 is about the actual implementation of that solution. Not, I did the assessment, here's my report, software engineer, please go improve the usability of the information in the heads-up display. Number 12 is talking about you were actually involved in making those changes, right? You're not just doing data analysis to identify the problem and make the recommendation. So this might be meeting minutes, Gantt charts, something about project management. It's more than just a recommendation in the report. So emails with supervisors, facilities, maintenance, engineering, something like that is what we're looking for to clearly demonstrate that you have worked with the application of those solutions that were recommended. Number 13 is about the evaluation of the design. Okay, so it might be that we did a pilot to evaluate the effectiveness of this before we rolled it out across the entire organization. We have evaluated the design of the new workstation. We have evaluated the effectiveness of this Ergo Team initiative. So this could be cost, it could be productivity, safety, risk reduction, doesn't matter what it is, but how are you trying to quantify the solution that you're recommending? Pardon me. Number 14 is about economic considerations. If you type into Google the product you're looking for and you say it will cost $500, that's not too much money, that is absolutely not what we're looking for. Okay? We are looking for recommendation A and B, and here are the economic implications of going with A and going with B. It might be, we know that solution A is the way to go, so here's our return on investment, here's a cost-benefit analysis, here's the anticipated cost avoidance with injury reductions, that sort of thing. But if you say it costs $300 and that's not a lot of money, you're not going to be awarded competency 14. And in the last bucket, other competencies, number 15 is about integrating the disciplines. The beautiful thing about ergonomics, and sometimes a challenging thing, is the breadth of what's possible. And thinking about all the other ways that impact the user's experience with whatever it is, the system they're working with, or the parts, or that sort of thing. So what we're looking for here is that you've demonstrated a consideration of a range of factors. It could be physical abilities, limitations of system users, who is our limiting user, organizational behavior, perceptual, accessibility, safety, acoustics, that sort of thing. So have you considered the impact of your recommendations on the other disciplines, right? If you raise something, if you lower something, is that going to impact safety? Is that going to impact the worker's perception about how hard or difficult it is? Those kinds of things. So just thinking about the breadth of the scope of ergonomics, and when you're making a recommendation in a report, is that going to impact more than just what it was you were called to look in? So just think about the breadth with that one. Number 17 is demonstrating your experience and understanding of project management timelines, critical path, resource allocation, and progress monitoring. So this might not be in that report that you gave to the client. It might come from a project summary. So I manage the solution implementation, the rollout, the staff training in the 3-month time frame that the project team agreed to. Okay? It might include deliverables, timelines, a Gantt chart, a project plan, but it's demonstrating your role in that project management piece of things. Any questions about work products and CCPE applications? We'll give people a couple minutes to type. Oh, Melissa, thank you. Yeah, I count in my head to 3 or 5, and then when the typing stops. No. So good question. AE application is just demonstrating you have met the education requirements of a professional ergonomist. Okay, it's just about your course hours. A person can choose to do their AE application first. I've met my education requirements, and then I am going on to get my 4 or 5 years or 25 years of work experience, at which time the work products are required. Or someone may just go straight to their CCPE application and all in one full swoop demonstrate education and professional work experience and work products. If I have an AE beyond the 5 years and is expired, I need to resubmit the education requirements. Collins, go look in the in the application kit. There's some verbiage about there. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Okay? There's a time frame on there when we say, yeah, we'll just accept your AE letter, and if you go beyond that time frame, no, you're starting from scratch over, and I don't recall. Class contact, oh. Karen, don't ask that question. Just go with the 14 weeks. I would. Exams are week 15. Okay, so if it sounds fishy, the board member will dig. Okay? It's about course contact hours. I know, and now there's reading weeks in the fall semester and the winter semester, depending where you go.
Yeah, but just on that, sorry, it's faster for me to talk because I have my mute on. Karen, remember we don't count week 7, so we jump over that, which is reading week. So we truly have 14 weeks of contact hours with Fanshawe, and week 15 is the exam. Because a lot of, not all of our courses have exams, so the contact hours that the Fanshawe students will be counting is only in class hours.
Yeah. The intention is contact with your instructor. That's the intention. So the 8 years comment. So from if I got my AE today and I was working at a 50% ergo job and I had no mentor, then I would have 10 years to get my 5 FTE years. There's details in there. If you have specific questions about the situation you're in, ask the board. All right. Okay, Lindsay, and there was somebody else in there who was asking about COC. So once you get your certification, you don't just get to set it and forget it. Because the challenge is you're going out and doing your work under your own name or the company you're working for. Oh, sorry, how long do you mentor for? If you want to apply under the 4 years experience category, it has to be at least 1 mentored year, I believe is the verbiage in the application kit. If you want to go in the 4-year category, take a look at the requirements for a mentor. If you are a person looking for a mentor, I had a conversation with one individual who is the only ergo type person at the place they work with. So I am being their mentor. I don't work with them. Don't supervise them. I don't even work in a sister company or a parent company. So if you want to have the mentored year, it does not have to be your immediate boss. There are requirements around who is eligible to be a mentor. CCPE for sure, and I believe there's other verbiage around who's eligible to be mentors. If you're looking for a mentor, go on the CCCPE website, and those that have attained their CCPE can, I don't know, they get a star beside their name if they are willing to mentor other ergonomists. Now, if you have your CCPE and you're looking for some continuance of certification points, you get bonus points for mentoring. All right. So when you're out there doing work under your own banner or doing work as an internal resource to a company, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing the profession. Okay, so you're representing all of us. And the purpose of the COC is making sure that people are remaining current in professional practice, making sure that there is ongoing professional development. And in order for CCCPE to be accredited with IEA, this continuance of certification is a requirement, and it's not unique to Ergo. It happens in many other professional accrediting bodies as well. So what you need to do is you have to accrue 100 points every 5 years. If you submit your COC submission on time, then you have a 20% chance of getting audited. If you miss your deadline, then you have a 100% chance of getting audited, i.e., the COC coordinator would look at all the points you claimed and all the supporting documentation in detail. It is your responsibility to track the due date of your application and to track your own points. If your 5-year period comes around, please don't call the board and say, oh, but you didn't remind me that I needed to collect points every year. That's on you. That's part of the agreement that you sign every year when you submit your dues. Certification will be revoked if you don't meet the continuing of certification. And again, medical leave, parental leave, those unique situations, we can talk about it and make accommodations for that. Whether it's, you took a 1-year maternity leave, so you're going to get 80 points because you weren't working, or we're going to give you 6 years to get 100 points. Dawn, when did you get certified? Amy, there are forms on the CCPE website, the template form. Okay, then Dawn, you need to follow up. You need to follow up. If it's been that long, it's supposed to be 6 months. So you have 5 years from the certification date. Okay, so these are the practices that I have put in place because I've got to do this for my CCPE and my CRSP, and they have different 5-year cycles. I would encourage you to do an annual or semi-annual review to see if you're on track, to look back in your calendar and see what events you've attended, where you're at, how have you accrued points. Do I need to put in my professional development request for next year that I need to go to the ACE conference in St. John's because I need the points, otherwise my certification is going to get revoked. Look at how we accrue points in the different categories and keep track of it. And again, it's your responsibility to demonstrate that you accrued the points. The board is just the auditor verifying what's been submitted. And please no double dipping, because that's a red flag. And when there's one red flag, start looking really close at everything. Colleen, there's a form. Do what works best for you. Do what works best for you. what I do is I have not gone completely digital. So I have just in my filing cabinet, I, pencil in every 6 months, what did I do? Oh yeah, I forgot about that one day meeting or that sort of thing. On my computer, I have a folder called Professional Development Certificates. So if I attend meetings, if I present at meetings, I scan my name tag, I save the conference program there, I save receipts there, I save the certificate from the 2-day workshop that I went to, then everything's in one spot. Because let's be honest, I'm not going to remember where the certificate is from 2014 when I have to submit in 2019. So just if it's electronic or hard copy, you just need to keep on top of it. Don't wait till the day before the deadline, because that's not going to go well. So how do we accrue points? Again, the full documentation is on the CCPE website. I'd encourage you to download it and familiarize yourself with it. First category, 16 points a year for full-time ergo, active practice. The challenge is if we're moving from, as careers progress, moving from a frontline manager to a supervisor role. If you are the supervisor of ergonomists, you might not be the one on the front line holding the force gauge, but you are reviewing and responsible for the quality control of the person on the front line holding the force gauge. That is ergo, okay? So think critically about your percent of duties that are ergonomics human factors work. Category 2 is developing training and education. Please only claim if this is outside your normal work duties. If you made a lunch and learn about something for part of your job duties, you cannot double dip. You already got points in category 1, okay? So that category 2 would be, I don't know, maybe you have children in a daycare and you did something for the daycare board or the daycare workers that was completely outside of your full-time job. Then claim that in category 2. Okay. Any training that you went to, this is to make sure that you are maintaining your skills and keeping current. Remember, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing the entire profession. So this includes webinars. So if you have a confirmation email from today's webinar, it might be great to PDF it and save it in a folder, because you get 0.5 points for that today. Contributions to societies, committees, and standards. If you are involved in ACE national or provincial, this counts. If you are involved on the CCCPE board, that counts. So look, when the call for nominations comes out in the fall, contribute, put your name forward, volunteer. If you're involved in CSA or ISO standards, that counts. If you are publishing things, if it's in a peer-reviewed publication, you get 5 points. If it's non-peer-reviewed, you get 2 points. The challenge is it needs to be accessible. So if you accrue 20 points of publications in some secret internal journal newsletter that you can't even show to the CCPE board, probably not going to be awarded those 20 points, okay? So whether it's a newsletter article, those kinds of things, just make sure it's somehow public, okay? If you attend conferences, you get points, and you get bonus points if you present at conferences. I forget what it is. It might be double points, it might be extra points, but you need to, that's an option as well, okay? And this could be like the ACE conference might work. I know there's the US has some conferences. It might be a local one-day workshop, right? A meeting kind of skills development sort of thing. So just be aware of what the opportunities are in your community. I know Atlantic does, Todd, is it a 1 day conference or half-day conference or weekend conference? Um, so what is available in your community? What are the options to mentor others, get involved with ACE or CSA or ISO? Okay, generally 1 full day. So that ACE Atlantic conference would fall in that category number 6 there. Any questions around COC? Honestly, my biggest tip is don't leave it till the end of year 5, because that's not going to be pretty. All right, volunteer, mentor, get involved. That's what it comes down to for your COC points. If there's any concerns about when is my due date, when did I get certified, that sort of thing, ask the CCPE office. I think it's also available in your profile on the website, but don't quote me on that. No questions about COC? All right.
So, Tanya, I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're approaching the 1 o'clock, and I know that you have done a great job, answering all the questions as they're coming in and going through that. So maybe just wrap it up a little there. I think you're close to the end, correct?
Yep, I got 1 slide left.
Excellent timing.
All right, Dawn, it's not in the profile. Okay, maybe it's a proposed version. Call the CCPE office. Hollins, work product before education complete. Hollins, are you claiming those work time as professional experience? Okay, I'm confused. If you're not claiming the year of work between my undergrad and my master's, then you don't need work products from that. It's the work products need to cover the time frame that you are claiming for your professional experience. I know the work product I submitted for mine was the abstract from my thesis, not the whole thesis. We don't need that. Just the abstract, executive summary, that type of thing. That will help with page limits too. If you need more clarification, Hollins, reach out to me separately or the ACE office. The application kit, please read it and follow what's written in there. If you have suggestions for improvement, if they are specific, please send that to the CCPE board, because it is a living document that does get updated. And I know as the board has conversations around reviewing, things get updated. But also if it needs to be made more clear because of prospective applicants' needs, and you've got suggestions, then please share that. Here is my contact info. I am not on the board. If you have questions about when was I certified, when is my COC due, here's my specific unique situation, what do we do, that sort of thing, please reach out to info@CCPE and they can answer the question or forward it to the president or board members or that sort of thing. Thank you very much for spending your lunchtime with us or your early morning with us if anybody's on the West Coast.
Yes, and thank you, Tanya, for all the time you've put into the CCPE and the certification. Like you said, it is a volunteer organization, and I know it's a lot of work. So thank you for all the work you've done on that. And as someone who's now been spending some time in there, the Excel spreadsheet for tracking the coursework is excellent. It's very easy to use. And clear. So I think the CCPE has done a great job to streamline and make it as efficient as possible. So thank you for all your work.
All righty. I hope it's warm